It's hard to think back now, but it was just in September of 2020 when Jensen stood in his kitchen pulling out graphics cards from behind the spatulas, and he introduced the 3000 series, the Ampere lineup of Nvidia GPUs to us. As so many of us sat there and watched Jensen pull these cards out from all over the place, I, for one, didn't have any kind of anticipation about what a 15-month span it was going to be from September until December of 2021. So I wanted to take a quick look back today over 2021, and let's take a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly as we see it from a PC gaming community. On the ugly side of things, I'm certainly not going to gloss over the GPU shortage, but I'm not going to belabor it either. We all know it's a thing, and we all know it's not going away anytime in the near future. Maybe you're one of those people that thinks a lot of the GPU shortages are due to gamers and pent-up demand, guys and gals that were still holding on to older Pascal or even Maxwell cards, and they all jumped on the boat for Ampere and thought it was a good time to upgrade. Just as you have a lot of demand from gamers out there on a day-in, day-out basis, you've had a lot of continued demand from miners based in the Ethereum market, and once again, we're at a nearly all-time high for Ethereum, so the demand is sure to continue to chug on. Whether it was from miners or scalpers or some combination thereof, it's finally reached the level here in the US that now you have the Congress involved, and they had the Stop Grinch Bots Act of 2021. Of course, this has not yet been signed into law. However, when you reach the point that Congress is actually starting to willing to act on a, let's call it, bipartisan basis, maybe it's gotten to the point out there it's pretty serious. Hopefully in 2022, we won't have to be chasing down scalpers and bots all year just to buy PC products that we all want and love. In the good and perhaps borderline great category for 2021, we have FSR from AMD. As most of us that follow the scene know, Nvidia was first on the scene with DLSS. Now, the downside to DLSS is you do have to have a Turing or Ampere card to make use of the technology. The super exciting thing from FSR is it can be used on a lot of different graphics cards, whether it's an AMD based card or not. And the other thing is it's going to keep Nvidia honest in the long term. As some of you guys have heard me say lots of times over and over again, competition is the backbone to keeping one company honest, or at least as honest as somebody like Nvidia and Jensen's going to be in the current circumstances. So by FSR coming to market, I do think you've seen some newer upgrades to DLSS that maybe forced Nvidia's hands a little bit to bring them to market a little bit quicker than they anticipated. And I think you'll see both technologies continue to evolve down the road. I understand this is not the front page of the New York Times per se. However, Wirecutter is a contributing source to the New York Times. And whenever you show up here in one of those not so glamorous kind of ways, well, maybe it's not in the ugly category, but it certainly falls into the bad category for me. And what we're talking about is the 11th generation of desktop CPUs from Intel. Should this have just been an upgrade to the 10th gen? Well, maybe best case scenario would have been an upgrade to the 10th gen. However, I, for one, think maybe they would have done okay just not bringing the 11th gen to market. Intel had a really good thing going across the entire lineup of 10th gen CPUs on their desktop lineup. Why they felt the need to go ahead and force the 11th gen to market when nobody needed it or really wanted it is still a mystery to me. Of course, the one reason Intel might have felt like they had to bring another CPU to market was that AMD was literally eating their lunch. Talk about a win in 2021 is AMD and their 5000 series of desktop graphics cards. Man, those things have not only been powerful and energy efficient. As the year has gone on, their prices have continued to fall, and they've been priced very competitively to try to lure you in to buy an AMD CPU instead of springing for the 12th gen over at Intel. I've said it before, and I'll probably say it again before this video ends. Competition, once again, is good for the consumers. And with both AMD and Intel producing top-end CPUs right now, it's hopefully going to lead to more competition and maybe even in the long term, better pricing for consumers. Just when you thought the Intel desktop CPUs were dead in the water, well, then the 12th gen showed up, and man, talk about some powerful CPUs at not a terrible price, mind you. I'm sure Intel was hoping for a reception like 12th gen got when the 11th gen launched earlier in the spring of this year. However, that was not to be. 12th gen is truly a game changer with a new kind of architecture, and the power draw is not probably as high as a lot of people would like you to believe unless it's running full tilt. And to this stage, it is something a little bit different that AMD has not yet exactly brought to market. So let's call it groundbreaking, sorta, but definitely in the good column, almost in the great column as far as I'm concerned. Purely a bit of speculation on my part, but as most of us are starting to think, Nvidia is not going to be able to purchase ARM neither in the near future or in the long term. Of course, it's impossible for any of us to say exactly what Jensen and the board is thinking over there at Nvidia. However, I do really think this is indicative of them wanting to get into the desktop CPU market and probably go beyond that into server and to mobile also. So maybe ARM was the easy way, the cheap way, the cheating way, if you will, to kind of jumpstart their own in-house CPU program. But I don't think Jensen's one that's easily deterred. He hasn't stayed on top of the industry for this long by simply taking no for an answer. So maybe in the not too distant future, speculating once again, you see Nvidia start to bring desktop, mobile, and server CPUs to market. But we stay on CPUs for just a minute longer as you start to look over at 2022 and what's coming in the immediate future. Another big upside to AMD. Soon they're going to release their 3D V-Cache technology, which, although the jury's still out on exactly what it's going to mean to gaming, it's probably going to be good all the way around. As we move through 2022, it's going to be really interesting to see Intel's Raptor Lake, their 13th gen of desktop CPUs, come to market. The rumor has it they're going to continue to build on their hybrid technology, so it's going to be really a fun time to see what exactly Intel can do as this technology continues to progress. And my last word about CPUs for next year, because again, this is a 2021 review, AMD is simply not going to be outdone easily with Zen 4 coming sometime in 2022. It's going to be really exciting to see what they have, and I would bet they bring a whole new architecture to the table also. As ugly as the GPU market has been over the entire year of 2021, the CPU market has been much better, although it got off to a rocky start, and the 11th gen were kind of meh at best. Overall, you've had the pick of some pretty good CPUs from both companies this year, and pricing has been pretty darn competitive overall. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit different for me. However, I'm going to start making videos more about what I want to talk about, probably less about what the YouTube algorithm wants me to talk about. And one of the things that was a big upside in 2021 were PC gaming peripherals. And there have been some really exciting things on the market. The entire genesis behind this channel was I'm a PC gamer at heart. I have been for decades now. So you can't be a PC gamer without the tools of the trade. One of my favorite brands for PC accessories for a long time now has been Glorious. I feel like they drive high value products and are pretty on top of what the market is looking for. Finally, this year, I was able to get the Model O minus wireless, which is a mouse I've been seeking for a long time, and that was brought to market, and I have loved it since that has shown up in my hand. So a definite upside for the gaming market. I feel like mice, more than anything else, are kind of like opinions. Everybody's got a favorite one that they want to stick with, and this one has just happened to have been mine that I've used since I've been able to get it a few weeks ago. However, if you have other mice you like, this has been a really great year for those also. Of course, one of the really big downsides this year has been Final Mouse and their lineup of Starlight mice, and you just simply can't get the things for anything resembling a decent price unless you just happen to get lucky and catch them at launch. If, say, you're a burgeoning audiophile and you like to have a little bit of listening of fine music along with your PC gaming, man, you really had a great selection of headphones. And let's just look at these Beyerdynamic DT900 Pro X open backs as a good example of your dollar going a long way. For $300, you can get the open backs or the closed backs and talk about great reviews all the way around. Although these can be a little bit tricky to come by, if your tastes run more, say, to a Japanese mouse pad, the Artisan lineup has got you covered. Now, you have to be very judicious, let's say, here in the US to make sure you can get your hands on them, but they are available from time to time. Are you somebody that prefers a high-value, hot-swappable keyboard that you can put almost switch to your heart's content in? Well, Glorious has got you covered there with the GMMK Pro lineup. Maybe you're somebody that prefers to spend a little bit more money and you want to have something a little bit more special from your keyboard. Well, groups like Novel Keys and other places where you can get into Group Eyes have given you literally more options now than ever in the past. As somebody that's been around for the complete evolution of mice, keyboards, headsets, things like that in the PC gaming world, I can tell you right now, you have more better options for all kinds of different price points, from literally less than $100 on one hand to, well, quite frankly, sky's the limit on the other hand. But at least you have choices, and for the most part, aside from a few things here and there, they're pretty accessible and not too hard to get. For 2021 in the PC gaming world, I really think the ugliest of ugly has become the scalping and the bots, the kind of the combo there that has led to people having a really hard time getting their hands on products. Just as we have all year long, you can see here at the very end of 2021, loads of high-priced GPUs here on eBay, and those are things that are just not approachable for a lot of PC gamers. One of the biggest transgressions here, in my opinion, once again, has been that even the entry-level cards, your 6600s, your 6600 XTs, your last generation 1660 Supers from Nvidia, even from a legit retailer here like Micro Center, have sometimes doubled or tripled in price. And it's not just been the GPUs this year. There have been some other times where peripheries and other items have been very hard to come by. Remember the power supply shortage we had earlier in the year? Now, I'm not trying to pick on Final Mouse. They just have a very in-demand product, but it's really sucked this year and people can't buy products at regular prices. So guys, it's a supply and demand situation. I'm still mostly a capitalist at heart, and it becomes one of those situations where maybe on this hand, you have 1,000 of product X to offer, but maybe on this hand, well, the demand's infinite, basically, especially when you look in the GPU market right now. So it's one of those situations where how do you fix things? Well, I'm really hopeful that the bill in front of Congress will actually get signed into law in the not too distant future here in 2022. On top of that, you do have websites trying to come up with creative situations. When AMD puts GPUs on sale, obviously they have the queue. Nvidia, well, they're kind of out to lunch. They've sent everything over to Best Buy right now, and Best Buy has been very back and forth over 2021 about exactly how they do want to sell their graphics cards. And then you have Newegg over there with the Shuffle. So it's been a little bit of a mixed bag about how you fix the situation. I, for one, think just a little bit more help would go a long way from Congress with this Grinch law, and that would at least get a little bit more supply back in the hands of people that actually probably deserve them a little bit more than scalpers do. In those eternal words by LL Cool J, don't call it a comeback. I really do think the biggest upside, the greatest thing to happen this year is Intel has once again become a real player in the semiconductor market. Although some of these things were set into motion before he arrived, I'm certain Pat Gelsinger will be happy to take credit for it, but I also do think having an engineering background, he is going to be the flame that reignites Intel to greatness once again. Of course, with Intel going full-fledged into the discrete GPU market, I think this is also a really big win. Now, of course, that win's not going to happen until 2022, but it's already set in motion. Hopefully, we'll be talking about it at the end of next year. I think this is going to do a couple of big things when ARC releases in the not too distant future. I think number one, it's going to help to keep Nvidia honest. What you have to look here is this is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It's the one company that Nvidia may actually fear more than AMD, and it is Intel. Not only do they own some of their own, albeit aging fabs, they're spending a lot of money getting their new fabs built right now as we speak. So they're going to be a big contender going forward. On top of that, nobody brings the engineering prowess the way Intel does. The other thing I hope it may do is keep AMD a little bit more interested in producing graphics cards. Remember, AMD does not own their own fabs. They've been pretty much continuously renting time from TSMC over the last few years. Maybe they can pony up the dollars and rent a little bit more time and produce a few more graphics cards as we go. Although there's really only a handful of companies that produce semiconductors globally speaking right now, and although Intel has delayed a final decision on producing more fab facilities overseas, I do think in the long term, you will continue to see Intel be a huge player in the international semiconductor market. So guys, there you have it. Those are my good, my bad, my ugly for 2021 in the PC gaming space. Please let me know what your thoughts are down below. Did I miss on something really, really big? Or is there something that was just really important to you that you want to call out and get some attention on? I certainly understand. Until next time, guys, good hunting and GIF out.